This is John McQuay with 8541 Tactical. I'm here today with the video review of the SWFA SS 5 to 20 power by 50 millimeter rifle scope. This rifle scope is sold by SWFA down in Texas. This is a very interesting rifle scope. It comes in the mid-range price point. It is a mil reticle and mil radian turrets. It is a 5 power to 20 power variable magnification with a 50 millimeter objective. It also has a 30 millimeter main tube, so you'll need a 30 millimeter mount or 30 millimeter rings to mount up this scope. Now we've got it sitting here in a Bobro quick release mount, which we've recently done the test on the return to zero on the Bobro mount. SWFA was kind enough to provide us the mount with the scope. This is actually the SWFA branded version of the Bobro mount. Now we've been wanting to test this scope for a while because it's gotten very high praise on the internet. It has a very solid set of features. As I said, it's a mil reticle and mil turrets. This means you can dial in the correction that you see in the reticle on the turret and get on target very fast. When you're zeroing the scope, this means you can generally get it zeroed and get on target within a round or two. Additionally, if you're shooting unknown distant targets and you happen to throw one off the target, you can very quickly measure how far off the splash was from the target, dial your correction in, and get set and get ready to go. Now, to test this scope, we took it out to the range and we set up a tracking drill. We put one large target down at the bottom of our target backer, and we use that target to actually get zeroed up. Once we get zeroed up, we have two smaller targets measuring about 1 inch in diameter set at varying distances up the target backer. The goal is to measure the distance from the large target spot to the smaller target spot with the reticle, and then dial the correction on with the turrets. What this does is this tells us if the reticle and the turrets are matching. Generally, it's easy to have a reticle that is correctly calibrated. The turrets involve a few moving parts, so if there's going to be a problem, it's going to be in the turrets. Additionally, this tests the key feature that you want in the rifle scope, which is the ability to see something, dial it, and hit it. So we do this 2 times with varying degree of dialing. I generally stretch it out as far as the target board will allow, and that gives me quite a bit of room to show if there's any error in the dialing of the turrets. Now, once we checked to make sure that the reticle and the turrets coincide on the target, we then do a straight vertical tracking test. In this, I make sure that the turrets are zeroed, fire a shot on our center large target, then I'll dial 1 mil up, still holding on that center mil target. I'll fire another shot, dial another mil up, and continue to do so until I've either reached the top edge of the target backer or I've hit the upper edge of the elevation on the scope. Now the 5 to 20 power SWFA SS, when we mounted it on the Bobro mount, which is a zero cant mount, it's a flat mount, there is no cant built into it, we got 15 mils of elevation left in the scope. 15 mils of elevation is plenty for a 308, which is what we mounted it on. If you were going to mount it on something like a 338 and really trying to reach out there, then it would probably be a good idea to put it on an inclined mount. You may end up running out of elevation if you're really trying to reach out there with a rifle like that. So we dialed up and we dialed to the edge of the target board, and then what you do is you come back, and since we made sure that our target was set at exactly 100 yards, it's a very simple matter to come back and measure the distance between each of the shot holes. And the distance between each of the shot holes should equal exactly 3.6 inches. In the case of this scope, they did, so that tells me that when I dial a mil on the turret, I'm going to get a mil on the target. So our tracking test and our elevation test, the scope passed just fine. We went out, we shot a match with it, and the reticle is a little bit different than what I'm used to. I'm used to either circular mil dots or flat hashes. Now on the SWFA SS 5-20, instead of mil dots you have diamonds. They're kind of flattened diamonds as well. They give you this neat card that doesn't just have the logo on one side, but on the other side it actually has the subtensions for the reticle. A very neat feature. I really wish more rifle scope manufacturers would do this. The reference card is great because it breaks down every portion of the reticle. So if you're doing something where you really need fine range estimation, this is key. It will give you exactly how large each part of the reticle is. Now if you look at the included card though, you'll notice that the diamonds are not perfectly square. They're longer than they are tall, or wider than they are tall, depending on which direction you're looking at them, because the diamonds are set one way on the vertical and they're set the other way on the horizontal. Now there are plus and minuses to having the diamonds set the way they are on this reticle. Having the sharp point of the diamond sticking out to the side gives you a very fast reference point on exactly where the center of that dot is. So you have a very definite 1 mil to 1 mil point. The drawback though is you have to remember the orientation of the dot when you're milling things, because it subtends a different amount when it's laying on its side than it does when it's standing up. Again, it's not a big deal. I think I would have preferred a perfectly square diamond, an equal diamond, so that no matter if you're looking at it on the horizontal or the vertical lines, they're the same height and the same width. Very, very small thing on the reticle, but it's something to think about. When you get into this level of scopes, we really have to find things to pick on, because this is an excellent rifle scope. Now, the optics in it, everybody wants to know about the clarity. This scope is extremely clear for its price range. The colors are accurate. You don't get any crazy color fringing or anything like that on it. The colors are accurate. It's clear. It's clear all the way up to 20 power. Some of the lower class optics, when you really crank that magnification up, it gets kind of milky and kind of hazy. That is not the case with the SWFA 5-20 power. It is nice all the way up to 20. You have a 50 millimeter objective, so it allows a decent amount of light in. We didn't have any problems with low light with the scope. Now, just going front to back on it, we'll cover a couple of things that I like and a couple of things that I dislike. First of all, when you come back here to the ocular housing, it's really clean. It's a nice design. It is a locking eyepiece. Once you get the focus for your reticle dialed in, you can lock this lock ring down and it's not going to move. I really dislike fast focus eyepieces because I want to be able to set the focus, I want to lock it down, and I want to be able to forget about it. Your eyes are not going to change quickly over time, so this is not something that you need to adjust every time you get down behind the rifle scope. I want to lock it in and forget about it. I don't want to have to worry about either my scope caps turning on it or bumping it in the rifle bag, and next time I throw it up, my reticle's blurry. So I like the fact it locks down. When you come forward, this is one of the small dislikes I have. There really isn't anything to differentiate the power selector ring from the rest of the eyepiece. In dark, when you're messing with things just by feel, if you come up here to turn the selector ring, you have a very small portion to grab a hold of, and it's kind of slick. You've got these little flutes, but there's really no knurling, there's no edge to grab a hold of. That's why a lot of guys that are running these are putting cattails on them, the little lever that comes off the side. That way they can dial it quickly. So there is a quick fix for it, but I would really prefer to either have some nub at one of the power settings, either the highest or the lowest, or have some kind of more aggressive knurling instead of the smooth anodizing on it. Coming back to the anodizing, the scope is a beautiful black anodizing. It's very smooth, very even. I didn't see anywhere on the scope that there were any blemishes or any discoloration. So the finish is very nice. The markings on the power selector ring are white. They're very clear. They're very easy to see. There is one small dot to tell you where the power selector is actually at, and it's right on the forward edge here, and it's kind of difficult to see in the camera. But that one little dot is all you have to know where your power is at, and it's really not something you can see if you're behind the rifle scope. Now this isn't a big deal because this is a first focal plane rifle scope, so no matter what your power setting is at, the reticle is going to read correctly. So again, not a big deal. Generally on first focal plane scopes, I don't worry about what my reticle is set at. I just worry about dialing it until I can see what I need to see. Now coming forward from that, we have our turrets here, our elevation and our windage turrets. They're nice and clearly marked. These are what are commonly called high-speed turrets. They have 10 mils of adjustment per revolution. There are pluses and minuses to high-speed turrets. The plus is you can get to where you need to be on your dope very fast just by spinning the turret in. The drawback on it is now your adjustments are a whole lot closer together. So when you're clicking it in, you need to pay attention. You can very easily jump 2 clicks when you meant to jump 1 click. Not so much of a big deal on this scope because the clicks are very distinct as you go through them. When I was spinning it quick, I did have a tendency to overshoot, but that's probably just me not being used to this scope. There are indicator lines marked for each revolution, and they are fairly accurate. 1 revolution of the turret brings you from one line to the next line. Now, depending on where you zero the turret at, the marks aren't going to line up perfectly, but you'll have the same amount above each line on each revolution. So those are accurate in that way. The windage, it's numbered 0 at your 0 marker, and then it goes up one direction, 2, 3, 4, etc., and then the other direction it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a nice feature. I've seen some scopes that have cheaped out and they just number them sequentially all the way around, and that can get confusing if you're dialing the opposite direction. What I really do like to see on scopes though is I like to see 1L, 2L, 3L for the left adjustments, 1R, 2R, 3R for the right adjustments. It makes it very easy when you're laying behind the scope to look and move. Now, of course, they do mark it on the side of the turret, but when you're behind the scope, you can't see the side of the turret. So that's just one little thing that I wish that they would do to improve it. Otherwise, it works fine. The adjustments are accurate. When you zero out the turret, it does end up on 0. You don't end up on a half click. We didn't have any problems with that. Switching over to the other side here, we have the parallax adjustment and the illumination knob. This scope is illuminated. The illumination isn't the greatest in the world. A lot of scope manufacturers tend to put too many bright settings on and not enough dim settings on. It is usable, it's totally usable. However, I would like to see fewer settings on the top end and more settings on the dim end of the scope. I also like to see that it has center off points so you can adjust the illumination and then set it to a center point to turn it off. You don't have to go all the way back around to an off point. So when you find an illumination setting that works for most of your situations, you can leave it there and you can just click it to the half click to turn it off. Now the illumination turret is on the outside of this turret and the parallax dial is on the inside. This causes you a problem when you're trying to quickly adjust the parallax. Add to it that the parallax adjustment on this scope is extremely stiff. It is very, very stiff. I mean, it's almost too stiff for me to try to move with just 2 fingers. You really need to reach up there with your hand and move it. And we've been working with this quite a bit and it hasn't loosened up a whole lot. So I have a feeling that's just one of the quirks of this scope, is that turret tends to be extremely stiff. This isn't a deal breaker because when I'm shooting fast, I tend to just set the parallax on an intermediate setting and leave it there. I don't do a lot of adjustment with it when I'm transitioning from target to target. However, it is something that you're not going to be able to just sit up there and crack it to a setting quickly. You're going to need to give some forethought and get it dialed in, because more than likely you're going to move the optic off target when you reach up to adjust that knob. So that's one of the small things, really, and I don't know enough about the design of the turret to be able to say if this is possible or not, but I would really like to see the parallax adjustment move to the outside of the turret so that you can get a little bit more grip on it and it's easier to grab a hold of, and the illumination move to the inside of the turret, closer to the housing. That to me would improve the design greatly. Coming forward, there's really nothing much to talk about on the forward end of the scope. You've got your markings engraved tastefully up here. Other than the one logo here on the side, there's nothing huge and flamboyant. SWFA is moving away from the Super Sniper name, so the scope's just referred to as the SWFA SS. The logo on the side doesn't say anything about Super Sniper. It just simply says nothing comes close, SWFA-SS.com, and has the eagle engraved on the side. Very nice looking. Overall, it is a very nice looking scope. It's functioned extremely well. We didn't have any problems getting to zero, didn't have any problems working with it. I really enjoyed working with this scope. But if you're shopping for a scope in this price range, the SWFA SS is a contender. It is a very well-built scope. We didn't get a chance to beat the crap out of it, but through regular range conditions, bouncing around in the back of the car, it has done just fine. We haven't torture tested it, but I really don't have any reason to believe that it's going to have any problems. We pulled off the scope caps and took a look at the internals in it. The internals are pretty beefy. You don't really have anything sticking up that looks like it's going to bend easily. There aren't any dainty little brass stems. Everything looks really good on this scope. The SWFA SS 5-20 by 50 power is a great option if you're looking for a scope in this price range. The 5-20 power is a good magnification range for a competition optic. The reticle will allow you to accurately mill targets, and it will allow you to accurately measure your offset, dial it on the turret, and engage. If you're looking for a first focal plane mill rifle scope, give this one a try. If you've enjoyed this review, please click that little like button down below. If you're not a subscriber, please make sure you subscribe and stay up to date on all our latest reviews. Also, if you got a comment, please leave it in the comments section below. Let us know what we're doing right or what we're doing wrong. Thanks, and make sure you check out some of our other videos.